Yeah? Ask them, are you a leader? And do you think, what are the areas that you think you are a leader? Yeah? What are the areas that you think you are a leader? And in that, we'll look at Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. Let's look at Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. I think this is the best place to start our class, or in terms of leadership class. Then God said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. 27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female. So I want us to start from there and just look at it like in the context of God himself. That for God, as we see God creating man, so the first thing that I want us to look at is as a leader, you have to have a vision. As a leader, you have to have a vision. You cannot be a leader without a vision. You cannot be a leader without a vision. So in this particular context, we see God, the vision that God has in creating man. It is not just probably aliamuka one day and decided, let us create man. No, he had a process. He had a process. Before he created man, he had created everything first. Then he created man. So one of the things that then, in terms of leadership, so one of the context in terms of leadership is for you to be a leader, then you have to have a vision. You cannot just wake up and say that today you are a leader. You have to start from somewhere. Yeah? You have to start from somewhere. You have to have built something. You have to have a vision for you to say that now you are a leader. One of the biggest challenges that you will face, even like a lot of people face, is you want to be a leader, but you don't want to go through the process of. You won't just wake up one day and decide you are a leader. So you don't want to go through the process of saying, this and this is what I have gone through, this and this is what I have studied, or learned for me to be, or for you to be where you are. So one of the biggest challenges that we are having is that we like positions more, not knowing what leadership is. Understand? Like it's easy for you to have a position, to go for a position, and not know what that position entails. Yeah? Or what that position requires you to have or to do. So first of all, we like, it's easy for you to get a position and yet you have not learned anything about that particular position. Or are you ready in that particular position that you're being given to say you're ready to sacrifice everything? And the reason why we are for this class is that we have to look at then, for you to want that particular position that you're looking for, then what are the costs, implications? Because for every position, then there is a cost implication. Yeah? So in Genesis, we see God creating man. But as much as God is creating man, then there is also a cost for him. Understand? There is a cost. So he has first of all to create everything else, then create man. So the cost first of all for God is create everything else, make sure everything is functioning, then create man. So that man now is given that particular privilege to be So in this particular position that man is being given, because man is called now to be a leader. Yeah? But now, man is called to be a leader in terms of governance of the things that God has created. But now the challenge is, does this man really understand the cost that God is putting on him? You understand? Because he was not there during creation, when God was creating, when God was doing the creation. So does this particular man really understand what God has gone through to do what? To create, then give him the dominion and for him to subdue everything that God has created in terms of governance. So that is where we'll start from. So in terms of now leadership and governance, it's very important just to understand that leadership, in the place of leadership then is a place that you have to really understand the concept or where you are for you to be able to be a good governor in terms of what? In terms of the resources that you have been given. So one of the questions that probably I'll ask you to ask your neighbor is, are you ready? Are you ready to be a leader? Because the first thing then you have to ask yourself is, are you ready to be a leader? Because the consequence of leadership means then, the consequence of leadership means there are things that you'll have to do away with, or there are sacrifices that you have to give yourself to, and some consecration that you have to go through for you to be an effective leader. Because it's not just, you don't want just to become a leader, but you want to be an effective leader. Understand? You don't want just a position, but you want, in the position that you have, you want to be effective. Yeah? It's not about the title, because a lot of people run for the title and not really understand what the title means. So one of the things that I want us to look at is in Genesis, in this particular, we are saying that for God, number one, that leadership means covering. Leadership means covering. You understand? We see how the man in Genesis falls and God comes and covers them. God shows us that in leadership you have to be, first of all, you need to know that you have a particular mandate, yeah, in people's lives or in the position that you have. So the first thing is, a leader should know they are a covering. Either number one, a covering in terms of the institution or the place that you're in. So the first thing is that a leader should know that they are a covering to other people or to institutions. Yeah? And that, we look at Genesis 3:21, where the man falls, and God, Genesis 3:21, and also Adam and his wife, the Lord God made tunic of skin and clothed them. So one of the things that a leader should do is that a leader provides covering. A leader provides covering. So if you're not providing any covering, and covering here, if probably in church or in any institution, is that you head and it's protection. Yeah? That a leader provides protection to the people that are under him. So it's very important just to understand that for you to, as much as in yes, you want to be a leader, then are you willing or are you ready to provide covering? Yeah? If you're not ready to provide covering, then you need to say that you don't want to be a leader. You have to think twice for you to say that then you don't need to be a leader. Because then everything else, if someone does something, if it's an institution, even in church, because here in this particular context, we're looking at not just the body, but we are looking all around. Yeah? If it's a place, if it's in terms of family, are you providing the covering? In terms of institution, as in for a leader, the back lies with you. So you have to provide that particular covering. So one of the things is, are you ready to do that? For you to say that you want to be a leader. It's not just about thinking that you want to be a leader, but then you have to ask yourself that particular question. Are you ready and are you willing to provide covering? So then in terms of providing covering, what does it mean? Then it means that you need to be a person that you need to sacrifice yourself. You understand? Because there are places that will provide covering that you really feel like, I don't need to provide, it's their fault. You know, when you look at this particular context, then we see that God is slaughtering an animal for him to cover who? Adam and Eve. You understand? But the question is, was it the fault of God? It was not his fault. You understand? It was not his fault, but yet he went further and did what? And slaughtered. So it means there are sacrifices that you have to do. You understand? Or things that you have to do because of what people have done. It may not be your fault, but as we say, the buck stops with, we don't, you know, as a leader, people really don't care who did. It's not about explaining who did what and how. It's, number one, providing covering. Number two, are you ready also to sacrifice? You know, are you ready to put your life on the floor and say that then I have to do this, I have to slaughter. There are things that then I have to slaughter for me to provide. Or are you willing to say that it's not about them? If it is an institution, it's not about them. It's about me. Like the buck stops with you. So it's very important that then as a leader you have to really understand that you need to provide. There are sacrifices that you have to make. It is not easy. Then you have to ask yourself, are you ready to make those particular sacrifices? How these sacrifices, how do they look like? You know, because then you have to ask yourself, how do sacrifices look like? It looks like your time. You know, it looks like not having enough sleep. It looks like doing things that other people will not do. You understand? It looks like for you, if it is in a home setup probably, how does it look? It looks like you becoming a leader and providing that particular covering. It means sometimes it's also a lonely place then. You understand? Because then how does it look like? It looks like, the second thing, it looks like as people are having fun, you may not have that particular fun that people are having. When people are enjoying, they're enjoying the fruits of your leadership. But at the end of the day, they really may not understand what you have gone through for them to enjoy that sacrifice. So it's very important because we see that for Adam and Eve, they were clothed with skin. But they did not know that there is an animal that died for them to be covered. You know, for them, where their mind was, let us cover ourselves with figs. But then there is an animal that had to die just because of that. So there are things then, as a leader, you have to understand that there are things that you have to kill. Yeah? There are things that will die. You'll have to die to self. You know, you will have to die to self. Because you cannot save others and also save your life. You have to decide. You have to decide on one. You understand? You have to decide on either save others at the table of your life. You know, this means that you're sacrificing your life for others. That is, we see that in terms of leadership, in terms of Christ, what Christ did. As in, yes, we will enjoy salvation, but we're enjoying salvation. It is not free, but it is on the table of the life of Christ. So it's very important that then, for you to enjoy leadership, as a leader then, are you willing to say, I'm laying my life on the ground for others? You understand? Like, you have to ask yourself that question. Yes, you want to be a leader, because a lot of people want leadership, but then you have to ask yourself, are you willing to lay your life on the altar for others? This means that there are people that have to step on you. You understand? They don't really care. They just have to step. Like you just sleep, they step on you, and they move. Are you willing to do that for those people? You understand? And that is what we are saying. Then you have to lay your life down for others if you want to be a leader. So it's very important these are the things that you have to introspect about self. You have to introspect when you're told you want to, and that's why I've said leadership is not just position. You know, you can be given the position, but you're not a leader. Understand? Leadership is not about position. And that is what a lot of people really like. That is what a lot of people like. A lot of people like position, but they don't want to sacrifice or really understand what the position entails. And that is what a position entails, whereby then are you ready to lay your life down for others? So Mark 10:45. Mark 10:45. Mark 10. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. So this is a verse that then if you want to be a leader, you really have to understand that laying your life for others means that then you have to be a servant. You understand? Leadership means you are for service for others and not for yourself. Yeah? So it means then, are you ready to serve other people? You know, without complaining? Are you ready to serve other people without, just thinking evil or ill about them? Are you ready to be a servant? Ask your neighbor, are you ready to be a servant? Do you want to be a servant? Yeah? Because a lot of people, ukisikia unataka kuwa servant, asema yes, I want to serve. But when you say that you want to serve, what does it really mean? You really have to think twice when you say you want to serve. Yeah? Because the word service looks very good. The word service looks very good. Come and serve it. You feel, I am doing something. I am doing something. But are you really doing something? Or you want to be a servant so that people see you? You understand? Because there are two contexts. You want to serve so that you can be seen that you serve. But then when it comes to laying your life for that service, you're not willing to. One of the things that I've learned with this is that even me, I've been having some challenges on this. Not as much, but at least some challenges. And in this, for me, one of the challenges that I've learned is when you really understand what service is. Yeah? In this, then you have to say, are you willing also to risk? Because service means that you're able to risk even your family. You understand? It is not just, you're not just looking at it as being a servant, but service sometimes looks at also risking your family and losing everything. Yeah? Because one of the biggest challenge with this is, let's say Pastor Agoi is a resident pastor, and probably her wife is in business or doing something else. Yeah? Pastor Agoi needs to be here at probably 6. You understand? Her wife, because of her work, is like, mimi nimechoka. Wewe endanga. Or Pastor Agoi atasema, acha tulale kidogo, tutenda saa moja. You understand? So it's being a servant is not as easy, or you saying that you want to serve, it's not what you think in your head. Yeah? It is something that is very, very different. Because then it means that there are things you'll have to sacrifice sometimes your own family for you to be here at 6. You understand? Especially if the other person is either in business or doing something else, or is employed. It means then you, as an individual, because you've given yourself to service. And that is why it is important, even before you decide to take a position or to be a leader in a particular, especially for people that are married. Let me say that. Before you take a position or, decide to do something, you have to talk to the other person. Because it can bring a lot of friction. If you don't do that, huyo mwingine ataona umefanya nini? Umemtoka. Because you need to be here at 5. Does the other person really understand that you have to be here at 5? You understand? So it's very important just to understand that in this particular, when we say service, it is not service in terms of lips, but it is much more than just that. We see the life of Christ, because when we see the life of Christ, how Christ laid everything for not just himself, but also for the disciples. You understand? That he did not just, he did everything that he knew he did everything that he could for the service of the church. So it's very important to understand that when then you're called to service, are you ready to be a servant? Just sometimes one of the biggest challenges is that if we look at our lives, even outside and politically, people want to be leaders to be served. That is the mind that people have, that I want to be a leader so that I may be served. But the truth of the matter is vice versa. Because what Christ is teaching us, that for you to be the greatest, because these are things that also happened to the disciples, asking themselves, who amongst us is great, will be great. That means greatness means, in the world context, greatness means being served. But Christ says, the person that will be great among you is the person that serves. You understand? So servanthood and leadership you really have to look at it in that particular way, that for you to be a leader, you have to be willing to be a servant. The other thing is Judges 13:10. In this particular part, you're looking at, for you to be a leader, you need consecration. You need consecration. You cannot be a leader na unapatikana kila mahali. You know, unaenda tu na upepo. You can't. It doesn't work that way. For you to be a leader, you have to understand yourself, and you really have to understand your consecration. Just all right. Then the woman ran in haste and told her husband and said to him, "Look, the man who came to me the other day has just appeared to me." Next. So Manoah arose and followed his wife. When he came to the man, he said to him, "Are you the man who spoke to this woman?" And he said, next, "I am Manoah." Said, "Now let your words come to pass. What will be the boy's rule of life and his work?" Next. So the angel of the Lord said to Manoah, "Of all that I said to the woman, let her be careful. She may not eat anything that comes from the vine, nor may she drink wine or similar drink, nor eat anything unclean. All that I commanded her, let her observe." In this particular context, we are looking at the life of Samson. You are looking at the life of Samson. Samson was called to be a leader for the children of Israel at that particular time. So there are things then that God had decided, these are the things that you will not do. These are things that you will not do for you to be an effective person, or for you to be a leader, an effective leader in that particular generation. So in this particular verse, we are seeing that there are things that God decided or told Manoah and his wife that the boy should not do. So the first thing that you have to ask yourself, are you willing to be? Are you willing to be consecrated? And consecration is what I have said, what is written. Are you willing not to drink wine probably? Are you willing not to shave? Shaving, it's different for different people for what God has called you, because then leadership, it's about purpose. You understand? Leadership is about purpose. It is not what you think you want. It is about purpose. Because it is God that raises leadership, or it is God that gives authority. So leadership, it's about purpose. Then you have to ask yourself, are you ready to be consecrated into leadership? Are you willing to die to some things? Are you willing to put something off? Are you willing to decide what not to wear probably? Friends not to keep? You understand? So you really have to understand, what are you willing to give up on for leadership, for your leadership, for you to be an effective leader. So ask your neighbor, are there things that you're willing to let go for you to be an effective leader? Are there things that you're willing to let go? Tunajua it's not easy, but you have to. Sindio? For you to be an effective leader, you have to let some things go. Kama ni kukunywa chai glass 3. You know, there are things that you have to let go to. We know. Ama, that is your consecration. Probably that is your consecration, taking 3 cups of tea. You never know. So, so you really have to understand that then there are people that you need to let go. You understand? There are people that you need to let go for you to be an effective leader. As a leader. So, there are things that you have to let go. I think this is one of the biggest challenge Consecration is the biggest challenge for a lot of people because you feel like if I let go, it's as if you're losing everything. Understand? As in, how can I let probably friends or your own personality also letting go. To introvert, letting go of yourself as an introvert, it's not easy. Yeah? Understand? So there are things that you have to let go. Because then if you don't let go, those are the things that are going to destroy your leadership. Those are the things that are going to destroy you as a leader. So it's very important just to understand that then you need to consecrate yourself. You have to ask God what you need to let go if you don't know. That is, because I think there are things that God probably will tell you to let go. Yeah? The other thing is leadership is painful. Leadership is painful. Leadership is painful. The reason why I'll say leadership is painful is because umelala chini watu wamekukanyaga wameenda wamekuacha pale pale. You understand? And sometimes you'll feel, I've really helped these people. I laid my life for them. And now they have become people, probably influential people, and they have left me probably in the same place that you thought you thought they would lift you up. You understand? Probably you thought, now because I've laid my life on the ground for them, wakifika pale juu watakukumbuka. Alafu anafika pale juu anakusahau. You understand? So leadership is very painful. And in this, we are looking at the life, if we look at the life of Christ, that Christ decides to come from heaven, to come on earth and lay his life for everyone. Not just for you, but for everyone. Then, everyone decides, even don't need you. I really don't need you. I can die for myself. You understand? It's very painful that when you have given everything, you have given your time, you have given probably your resources and everything else, and then you die, and then you see people doing what? Probably getting destroyed. Understand? It's really painful, as in, what else can you do? Because now you already died for these people, and they have rejected you, or they have been elevated and they have forgotten you. So leadership is very, for you to accept leadership, then you have to ask yourself, are you willing to go through the pain? Are you willing to go through the pain? And here sometimes also means the pain of rejection, because you will be rejected by the same people that you're coming to die for. They will reject you. That you want to, you want to give them life, they will reject you. So are you willing to be rejected and still not hold on to that particular pain and still love people? Because I think that is where one of the challenges, that you want to be accepted. You feel you need to be accepted. Your need of acceptance in leadership is not there. Is not? So ask your neighbor, are you willing to be rejected? Ask your neighbor, are you willing to be rejected? Because I see acceptance. Acceptance is, but here, in leadership, you have to know that there are people that will reject you without cause. Without cause. You will be rejected. na hata kuficha, hata kureject ukionanga. Sawa. So it's very important just to really understand that then for you to be an effective leader, you need to have those things in mind. Are you willing to take in the pain and still show love? Are you, after being rejected, will you still show love? You know, are you still going to show love even as you're rejected? The other thing is, in leadership, you have to provide. In leadership means provision. You cannot be a leader without providing. You have to provide something. You have to provide something. There are so many people that want to be leaders, but then when it comes to providing, they don't want to. So, in a marriage setup, leadership looks like you as a husband providing. You understand? But also on vice versa, I usually say, leadership does not know, let me say that, leadership does not know gender. Sawa? Leadership does not know gender. If you cannot lead your life, because then it has to start from there. You understand? You have to lead your life. Because the first thing is, you don't from the other person, and you yourself, you're also not showing leadership or leadership in your own life. Yeah? Because that is skewed. You know, it's not right that you are expecting on this other side to, you're expecting leadership, but your life, in your own life, you're not showing leadership also for your own life. You're not leading your own life, and you're expecting other people to. So it's very skewed. You have to show leadership even in your own life. So the first thing that you have also to ask yourself, are you a good leader in your own life first? Are you a good leader in your own life? So it's very important just to put that into clarity, that then are you a leader? And for you to be a leader in your own life, how does it look like? What are the sacrifices that you have made? Because then when you know that and you expect the other person, then it's going to be easy for you to flow together, because you'll know that it takes a lot for you to be a leader. So the same thing it takes for both of you, especially for both a man and a man in marriage, then it's going to help you even in terms of your own relationship. You understand? Because the biggest challenge probably in a relationship is when you're expecting someone to show you leadership, but you yourself, yeah, you understand? It's very bad. It's very bad, and that will breed a lot of conflict, especially for a relationship. So, so let me just finish with this. Jesus values us so much that he paid our debt of sin with his death. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame. That is in Hebrews. So one of the things that you really have to understand, that then in leadership there are also benefits. There are also benefits. You'll not go through pain, you'll not go through rejection and shame and provision and vision, and not have a benefit out of that, out of leadership. Leadership has its own benefits. Sawa. And here, when we look at the life of Christ, we see that Christ, as much as he went through that, he seated at the right hand of the Father. You understand? So leadership has also benefit. So it's not just the painful things, the sleepless nights that probably you'll have. No, it's not just about that. You have to set your eyes, you really have to look forward for you to have strength. You understand? In terms of leadership, if you don't look further, if your eyes are not able to see, then leadership is going to be very hard. You understand? Leadership is going to be very hard. If ukiona tu hapa, then you'll not be able to be a leader. Because what will give you strength each and every time that you don't have the strength is the joy that is set before you. If there is no joy that is set before you, then utakuwa mtu uko na hasira. You'll be a bitter person, looking at the things that probably you have gone through. And because I know a lot of people that have really done a lot of things, but then in their life, they are very bitter. Probably they sacrificed everything, not just in church, but also outside. They sacrificed their own lives for others. Let's say they sacrificed their own life for their siblings, to go to school in terms of provision, but after time, they are very bitter. Understand? They showed leadership, but that leadership right now has bred bitterness in their own life because their joy was to be probably seen, or to be. So I think that's very, very important just to understand that you have to set your joy before so that you enjoy leadership. Sawa. So with that, I think I'll open the room for any questions. If you have a question, you can ask. Yes.
I'm just wondering, you've said the leader has to be ready to provide. So, and I do understand because if someone comes to you, they have a problem. Rev says you don't pray for people who don't have food. You give them food. So I don't know if you can probably talk about that. Like, then as a leader, where do I go for that provision? Because it will be required of you. So how does that look like? Is it prayer? Is it... Because then it means as a leader, I must have resources. So where am I?
That's a very good question. Then I think one of the first things that then you have to ask yourself, and that's the reason I asked, are you ready to be? You have to ask yourself, are you ready to be a leader? Because leadership is not just you wanting, and leadership does not mean that you have everything and all answers. You understand? It does not mean that you have all the answers, and it does not mean that you have all the resources. You understand? But then it calls you to a higher, to a higher purpose, higher elevation. That someone might come, I don't either have school fees or I don't have food, but then when they tell you that, are you able to give direction? You understand? Sometimes leadership looks like not just direction, but are you able to bring people together for a common purpose? Because you may not have the resources, but then are you able to bring people together and tackle a particular problem? You understand? So that is how it looks like. But then it's not just about you, because leadership, it's not just about you when it comes to leadership. In such a place, leadership looks like showing people the way, that you're not their provider. You understand? God is. You understand? That is how it looks like. That, yes, even me, I am looking at the same source like you, being open and being vulnerable. Because leadership means sometimes you have to be vulnerable. Understand? It does, and that's what it does not mean that you have everything. It does not mean that you have everything. All right. Any other question? So hakuna maswali, si ndio? Tumeelewa. Si tumeelewa? You've understood. So ask the other person, are you willing to be lonely? Lonely. Are you willing to be consecrated? Yeah? Alone. Are you willing to be alone? Lonely, no, but alone. So are you willing to die? Ask the other neighbor. Ask your neighbor, are you willing to die for others? You know, that is what leadership is. Sawa, are you willing to be rejected? So it's very, very important. Sawa. All right. Our time is up. If there are no further questions, our time is up. We'll take 5 minutes. Yeah. Asanteni sana. Thank you.